Imagine this. You're on your first big vacation abroad with your buddies. A week of sunshine, beaches, just having a good time. But then a small injury forces you to stay behind alone. And just a couple of days later, you vanish. Completely. This sounds like a movie plot, but it's the totally baffling, very real story of Lars Mittank.
Now, Lars Mittank isn't just another missing person case. He's actually been called the most famous missing person on YouTube. And why? It all comes down to one single, chilling piece of security footage that captured the very last time anyone saw him alive.
So that's the big question, right? What on earth happened? How does a regular 28-year-old guy just sprint off the face of the planet? We're going to break down that footage, look at the timeline, and dig into the bizarre theories behind one of the internet's most haunting mysteries.
Okay, so let's start right where this mystery exploded online. Varna Airport in Bulgaria on July 8, 2014. This is where security cameras caught a man running, and I mean running, like his life absolutely depended on it.
What we see in that video is just pure panic. Lars literally bolts from the airport doctor's office, leaving everything, and I mean everything behind. His wallet, his phone, his passport, all his bags. He just sprints through the terminal, somehow climbs this tall fence, runs across a field, and disappears into a forest. And just like that, poof, he's gone.
Seeing that kind of desperation makes you ask the most important question: how did it come to this? To even begin to understand the terror we see in that video, we have to rewind the clock just 8 days, to the beginning of a vacation that started out completely and totally normal.
Before all the chaos, Lars Mittank was just a regular 28-year-old guy from Germany. He worked at a power plant, had a serious girlfriend. This trip to a resort in Bulgaria was supposed to be his first time abroad with his friends. You know, just a simple, fun getaway.
And for the first few days, it was exactly that. Super normal. They were hanging out on the beach, swimming, watching football. But then, on July 6th, the night before they were all supposed to fly home, everything went wrong.
According to his friend Paul Ronhan, Lars was totally fine. He said he was relaxed, he was in a good mood. There was absolutely zero indication of the horror that was about to unfold.
So what was the turning point? A fight at a bar. Lars was a fan of one German football team, Werder Bremen, and he got into it with some other guys who were fans of a rival team, Bayern Munich. He told his friends later that 4 guys beat him up, and he ended up with a ruptured eardrum. This one injury kicked off a whole tragic chain of events.
Because of that ear injury, a doctor told him he shouldn't fly. His friends even offered to stay with him, but he told them, "No, I'm fine, you guys go ahead." So he checked into a cheap hotel by himself, and that's when his behavior took a really sudden and terrifying nosedive.
The hotel's security cameras and his phone calls, they paint this really disturbing picture. He calls his mom, whispering into the phone that he's being followed, that people are trying to kill or rob him, and that she needs to cancel his credit cards right away. The cameras show him pacing the hallways, looking out windows, even hiding in an elevator. The next morning, he calls her one last time, and his message is chilling. They are getting closer.
And that brings us right back to where we started, Varna Airport. Lars went there hoping to finally get clearance from the airport doctor so he could get on a flight home. But what should have been a simple checkup, well, it turned into the last time anyone would ever see him. The doctor at the airport, a guy named Kosta Kostov, later said Lars was extremely nervous and erratic. The doctor told him he was fine to fly, but Lars was really anxious about an antibiotic he'd been prescribed called cefprozil, and he just wouldn't leave the doctor's office.
And then the trigger. A construction worker happened to walk into the medical office. That's all it took. The doctor said Lars just started trembling and yelled, "I don't want to die here. I have to get out of here." And then he ran. That was the moment just before the famous security footage begins. So, with no body ever found and no contact ever made, all we have left are theories. And they range from a strange medical reaction to him being in very real danger. The question is, what actually makes sense?
Okay, so one leading theory is about that antibiotic, cefprozil. It has a very rare side effect that can cause hallucinations and extreme paranoia. Sounds plausible, right? Well, here's the catch. The airport doctor swore that Lars never actually filled the prescription. Then there's the idea of a sudden mental breakdown, maybe triggered by the stress of the injury and being all alone in a foreign country. But again, his family is adamant. He had no history of any mental illness.
Of course, there's another possibility we just can't ignore. What if his fear was real? What if the men from that bar fight were actually after him? I mean, it would explain the panicked calls to his mom and his desperate escape, wouldn't it?
That haunting footage has been watched over 16 million times. It spawned countless Reddit threads, YouTube deep dives. The mystery of Lars Mittank has truly become a global internet phenomenon, kept alive by this digital community that is just desperate for answers.
In all the years since he vanished, the search has come up with basically nothing. A private investigator checked all the local hospitals. No dice. And while there have been a bunch of supposed sightings over the years, even one in Germany in 2019, none of them have ever been confirmed. His poor mother still holds out hope that he's alive somewhere, maybe living with amnesia. It's just, the agony of not knowing must be unbearable.
And this is a good reminder that behind the viral video and all the online theories, there's a real person. Lars is 5'11" tall, with dark blonde hair, and he's got a noticeable scar on his left forearm. He's a son and a friend who just disappeared.
So, here we are, all these years later, left with the same grainy images we started with, and the same massive question. What does that video really show us? Is it a man running from a real physical threat? A man suffering from some kind of bizarre medical crisis? Or are we watching a mind completely collapsing in on itself? A decade on, the footage just keeps playing on loop, and the mystery of what happened to Lars Mittank is as cold as it's ever been.